Gurave Namah. Namaste. Welcome to this video. This is the third video on King Charles in the series. And in this video, I want to look at the relationships between Prince Charles, Diana, Camilla, and her first husband. And I want to point out an interesting observation, which is that when we look at the pattern of relationships, the karmic imprint of relationships that we find in the D9 charts of people, we have an example here of a story in which it was felt that Camilla was actually the first love of Prince Charles. Diana was second, and that there was a pre-existing relationship between Charles and Camilla that existed before the marriage to Diana, before Charles's marriage to Diana, and then during that marriage. That's a very famous story that you've likely heard. And so when we look at the D9 chart for the ordering of relationships, the first marriage, second marriage, third marriage, we actually see there's something quite interesting. And that is that in the chart of Prince Charles, Diana shows up very clearly as the second spouse. And in the chart of Camilla Parker Bowles, at least Camilla Parker Bowles at the time, she's no longer Parker Bowles, but in the chart of Camilla Parker Bowles, her first husband, Andrew Parker Bowles, shows up very strongly as the second marriage, which brings us to possibly theorize that actually, in fact, in the karmic imprint, in their destiny, Charles and Camilla were indeed their first relationship for each, even though that relationship didn't come to fruition. Now, if you follow the ordering of relationships in Vedic astrology using the D9 chart, this is in the tradition that has been taught to me by Pandit Sanjay Rath. We look for the first marriage in the 7th house from the Navamsha Lagna. So if you look at Camilla Parker Bowles, the 7th house from Navamsha Lagna is Aries. And then to see, so that's the first marriage, right? That's marriage number 1. And then to see the second marriage, we look at the 8th from the 1st, because the way we do that is we see that the 2nd from the 7th is what breaks the marriage, and then we look 7th from there to find the second marriage. So the second marriage is here in the second house from the Navamsha Lagna. And then, of course, if we want to look at the third marriage, then we move to the 3rd house. This breaks the marriage, and we find the 3rd marriage in the 9th house. So this is the 3rd marriage. We're not going that far. We're actually just staying with the 1st and 2nd, right? We're looking at the 1st and 2nd marriage. One thing that's very striking is that when you look at the chart of Andrew Parker Bowles, to see how it maps to Camilla's D9 chart, you find that there is a striking match when we look at the house of the second marriage and its trines. We're always looking at the trines for a connection. So let's just unpack this a little bit here. The first marriage for Camilla should be Aries. So when we go to the D9 chart of Andrew Parker Bowles, we see that actually uh, it, it, it's a Scorpio Lugna, right? Scorpio Lugna, and also Scorpio Lugna in the D1 chart as well. And so when we look to the trines of Scorpio, there is no connection to Aries. Aries is missing here. Aries is left out. So if we then look at the second marriage of Camilla and its trines, so now right away we see Scorpio. We see Scorpio. There is a connection. And let's look at the trines. The trines are Pisces and Cancer. And in Camilla's D9 chart, you see that Pisces has two planets, the moon and Venus, and then Cancer has one, the sun. So when we look at Andrew Parker Bowles, we see in the D9 chart Scorpio rising with Venus and Pisces. That's a match, Venus and Pisces, and the sun in Cancer. That's also a match. So it's quite a striking match when we think of Andrew Parker Bowles as the second marriage for Camilla Parker Bowles. For Camilla, Queen Consort, obviously not saying Parker Bowles anymore. She's Queen Consort. And even though this was her first marriage, what's showing up quite strongly in the matching of the D9 is that actually Andrew Parker Bowles is the second relationship. Now, what's interesting is that there was a bit of, cat and mouse relationship hopping around with these people. Camilla met Andrew Parker Bowles quite a long time before they got married. So they met in the 60s, right? But they weren't married. They had an on and off relationship. Then Camilla met Prince Charles in 1971. So she met Prince Charles, and interestingly, after meeting Prince Charles and having a kind of a resonance with him, there was an interest, there was a love interest, there was a possibility, there was a consideration, and for whatever reason, there are many different theories as to why they never actually got married. It could be because the families didn't approve, Charles's family didn't approve, and so on. There's lots of theories out there, and you can read about it. But the point is that it's very interesting is that Camilla met Andrew first, then she met Charles, and then she went back to Andrew and married him in 1973, right? So then Charles met Camilla, and after meeting Camilla, then met Diana and married in 1981. So Prince Charles met Diana in 77. So there was a number of years where there wasn't really a strong focus on the possibility of marriage. But then very suddenly there was a proposal, it was a possibility was entertained, there was an engagement, a proposal, engagement, and marriage, and it happened quite quickly. So, and then as we know that Charles and Camilla are now married, they married in 2005. So there's been a bit of a hop step in the relationship ordering. But the theory I'm proposing is that Camilla met Andrew Parker Bowles first, but this maps to the second relationship in her karmic imprint in the D9. The first was Charles, the second was Andrew. But for whatever reason, she met Andrew first, but it didn't lead to marriage right away. And the reason, my theory is, the reason is she needed to meet her first relationship. Once she met Charles, what's very interesting is that she met Charles, and my theory is it triggered the move to the second relationship first. Now that's a bit of a mystery. Why that happened is a bit of a mystery. But that's the theory that I'm proposing, that the reason she didn't marry Andrew Parker Bowles right away was because actually there was a bit more of a journey she needed to take before she got to the second relationship. She needed to meet her first match, her first relationship, which she did. It activated something, but it didn't activate their marriage right away. She married the second relationship, which then ended, and then she went back to the first. Okay, that's my theory, and it shows up in the chart, especially when you look at the fact that the second marriage is Scorpio in the D9 of Camilla Parker Bowles, and this matches so beautifully to the uh, Lugna, the D9 Lugna of Andrew Parker Bowles, and the trines with this Venus and the Sun in there. So this resonance happens. The idea is that it's not necessarily the case that these people knew each other in a past life, but the planetary energies, when they line up, it creates a vibration. It creates an attraction because there's a lining up of the energies. Now maybe they knew each other in a past life, but even if they didn't, if they have those energies connected to those energies, then they will be attracted. That's the mystery, right? The mystery of attraction and love. Okay, now the story doesn't end there because my theory extends to Charles and Diana. My theory is that Diana, even though legally speaking is the first marriage, is actually the second relationship, the second karmic imprint in the chart of Prince Charles. So if I look at the chart of Prince Charles in the D9 is a Libra, Tula Lugna, right? And so again, similar to Camilla, Libra rising, we expect that the first marriage is going to have a prominence of Aries. That so we expect Diana to show up as Aries. Now, if we go to the chart of Diana, if we go to the D9 chart, well, here the D9 chart shows Aquarius rising with trines in Gemini and Libra. Um, it's not a clear match, you know. It's not a clear match because Aries is not featured. Where is Aries? Aries is overlooked, right? And the planets as well. There's no match. Now, let's see if what happens when we look at the second marriage, right? Remember what I said about the second marriage. The second marriage maps to the second house of the D9, right? We go like that. So the second marriage for Prince Charles is Scorpio. So when we look to Princess Diana's D9, well, Scorpio is not featured, but if we go to the D1, Scorpio is featured. And we look at the D9 as well as the D1. We look at both for relationship matching. If it's not found in the D9, maybe it's found in the D1. Here we see a match. Diana being Scorpio Lugna, Prince Charles, the second relationship of Prince Charles is Scorpio. And the trines. So if we look at the trines here, we have Mars in Pisces, and then these planets in Cancer, Rahu, Saturn, and Venus. Okay, so if we look at the trines to Scorpio in Diana's chart, it's empty. So it's not a like 100% match, but it's still a strong match because of the connection with Scorpio. And you could extend the principle. You could extend the principle to say that in Charles's second marriage, so the lugna of the second marriage is Scorpio. with these planets, Mars and Rahu. But what's interesting is that Diana has a very strong Mars-Rahu conjunction in the 10th house, and Mars is Lagnish. Mars owns Scorpio. So because of that ownership, we might argue that this Mars-Rahu connection is something that is strong in Diana's chart, and for Charles, this second marriage, we expect the person to have a strong Mars-Rahu connection, which shows up in the trines to Scorpio, trines to the second marriage in Charles's chart. So I hope that's clear. I know it can get a bit complex looking at the matching, but there's certainly a case to be made for the idea that in both the chart of Charles and Camilla, their first legal marriage maps to their second spouse. And for each, we might say that they were meant to be the first spouse for each other. Charles was meant to be with Camilla first. Camilla was meant to be with Charles first. Now, that begs the question, what do we see in the first marriage for both Charles and Camilla? Well, one thing to note is that Charles and Camilla are both Cancer risings, right? They're both Cancer risings in the D1, and they're very close in degree. The ascendant degree is 12 degrees something Charles, and Camilla's 11 degrees. And so they're within 1 degree of each other. The ascendant is within 1 degree of each other in the D1, which also means that they share the same D9 Lagna, Libra. So there's something very similar about their charts. Both Charles and Camilla project their first relationship to the 7th house in Aries. They both do that. And so the relationship is on this axis, this Aries Libra axis, Mesha Tula axis. We might argue that that connection creates a very strong resonance with each other. There was something that they connected. The connection wasn't opposites attract, because it's not that Camilla was Aries and Charles was Libra. Both were Libra. Both are Libra, Navamsha Lagna. Both are Cancer Lagna in D1. Both are Libra Navamsha Lagna. So both have a similarity. And my theory is that what attracted Charles to Camilla was this feeling of familiarity, not a feeling of an opposite attract, but a feeling of connection through familiarity. And maybe that's a reasonable theory, because being in a very unusual life circumstance, being heir to the throne, having a lot of pressure, a lot of restriction on one's life, a lot of regimen, and being Cancer rising. Cancers need to feel safe. They are emotionally sensitive, and they need to feel like they're in a safe environment, and it's possible. As a theory, the attraction to Camilla was the commonality they shared, the commonality that runs through all their divisional charts. When the Lagna point is so close, within 1 degree, you're going to find a lot of similarity across the divisional charts, especially the D9. And you might argue that this is what created their attraction. But because it wasn't oppositional, because it wasn't Aries, Camilla wasn't Aries, the theory could be extended to say that Charles didn't fight to be with Camilla initially, because that strong chemistry of opposites didn't get activated. When you are very similar to somebody, you feel comforted, you feel comfort with them, in the presence of them, but you may not fight to be with them. And this was very much, I think, very much true to their story. Charles was very comforted by Camilla. He went to, even during the marriage with Diana, he went to Camilla for intimacy, for emotional support, um, and that common planetary energy that they shared. That's my theory. That's a theory that they were meant to be together from the start, but because of the conditions in their D9 chart that I've just explained, it explains why they didn't fight to get married right away. Both of them moved to the second marriage, and the second marriage for both became the first legal marriage, which then ended in different ways for both, and then they finally reconnected and got married in 2005. That's the theory. I hope you found that thought-provoking. Please feel free to add thoughts and ideas in the comments. Namaste.